Okay, with this Zoom call, we're going to take an inside look into Jr Rockerz. I'm going to share with you my screen in just a second. But what we're going to be looking at is we're going to be looking at this is the Jr Rockerz songbook. This goes to all the kids in the program. This is the band director works off of these are all scores. So all the material from the songbook is compiled into a score here. And then this is the operations manual that comes with Jr Rockerz. So let me share my screen with you so we can see my exciting presentation. There we are. Okay, let's first say hello to all the viewers today out there in internet land. We've got Linda and Eric and Jared and Russ and Wendy. And if you guys all know how to use the chat, you can chat away in there, and you can at any point, if you have a question, just go ahead and unmute your mic and ask a question. So we are now at the presentation portion of the presentation, Jr Rockerz, Life After Kidzrock. This is a band program for ages 7 to 11. So let's first talk about what is Jr Rockerz. Jr Rockerz is a rock band class for complete beginners and intermediate level musicians. It's really the second chapter of Kidzrock. So philosophically, Jr Rockerz and Kidzrock are the same thing in terms of their, attitudes towards music education and this whole idea of kids up and playing in a band on day one. But musically, the way it's expressed is completely different. All the music, like Kidzrock, is written specifically for the program, so they're not playing songs off the radio. And Jr Rockerz introduces lyric writing, and it introduces improvisation. None of that really exists in Kidzrock. And in Jr Rockerz, the kids are playing on standard instruments, and they sing and they play at the same time. That doesn't happen in Kidzrock. And each instrument, and we'll look at that in a minute, it has sheet music for a child who's never played before and for a child who can play a little bit. Now, why would you give sheet music to a kid that's never played before? Well, this is how they learn to read, and I'll talk about that as we dig into some of these videos here. So Kidzrock fixes one problem for your studio, but then it creates a new problem, a new problem. So Kidzrock fixes, these 4 to 7-year-olds, they don't really have anywhere to go, or private lessons isn't always a great fit for them. So Kidzrock gets these kids up and playing in a fun group and performance program. And I am going to mute somebody here. Sorry, Linda and Rich. But unmute your mic, people, if you have a question. I just muted everybody to eliminate background noise. So Kidzrock, hopefully for everyone, it's fixed the problem of what to do with these little kids that want to play but are too young. But here's the problem that Kidzrock creates is, well, what do these kids do when they age out of Kidzrock, and what's next for them? These kids, 7-year-olds, they're still too young to be in a real rock band program. And private lessons, that can, it's an obvious, a destination for them, but private lessons lack the social and performance opportunities of Kidzrock. Private lessons also introduce at-home practice, and not every kid wants to practice at home. In breaking news, people, not all your students are practicing. I know it's a bitter pill, I know, to swallow. It's sort of the elephant in the room quite often when you're teaching a kid who doesn't practice. Practicing is, though, for the really motivated student. And some kids like the low pressure setting of Kidzrock. Private lessons can be perceived as less fun than the band experience. Does anyone want to dispute any of that? I'm saying some things about private lessons, don't want to, put them down. I mean, we all offer them, but if anyone has any thing, either they want to chime in on the mic or chat, please share your thoughts with us. Okay, so what's the fix to the problem that Kidzrock creates? Junior Rockerz. It allows Kidzrockers to continue on in a group, and they're playing in concert still, just like before. They're on standard instruments, and it's more demanding musically, and I'm going to get into some of the scores, and we'll see that. It introduces singing and songwriting, we talked about it, but it also allows incoming students to begin with the band. Typically, with Kidzrock, if a mom's calling with their 4-year-old, there's typically not going to be any discussion as to what program to go with. It's usually the question is, do you take students as young as 4? Yes, we do with our Kidzrock program. Junior Rockerz is now spilling over into an age group that is old enough for private lessons. But when you dig in a little bit and tell them about Junior Rockerz, it can turn into be a much more appealing offer to a child who's maybe 9 and has never played before. So how does Junior Rockerz impact your business? Not only is it a high profit margin program because it's a group class just like Kidzrock, but it costs more to be in Junior Rockerz. Junior Rockerz is an hour-long class. Kidzrock's 45 minutes. People are charging maybe anywhere from $150 to $175 for Junior Rockerz. No one's charging that much for Kidzrock. It allows incoming students to go straight into the band. It allows the studio to position itself as a market leader. Why? Because no one in your market is offering a rock band experience for kids this age that don't know how to play. If you're competing with School of Rock in your market, well, guess what? School of Rock's not taking a brand new 9-year-old who's never picked up a guitar, putting him in the rock band. This allows you to have them go only into rock band. Yes, they can take lessons as well. We'll talk about that a little later on. Talk about it does produce a higher margin than Kidzrock. And one of the big advantages to Junior Rockerz is that more kids in the 7 to 11-year-old age group are looking for private lessons. The 4 to 7-year-olds, not as many of them. But still, plenty of you have 20 to 30 kids in your Kidzrock program. There's enough of them to build a successful program. But typically a child in that 7 to 11-year-old age group, mom is out there actively looking because mom's making the assumption that her 9-year-old's old enough for private lessons. Okay, so now we're looking at, this is the band director score. So this is what the band director works off of. And can you guys see the music okay? Is it a little small? So what you can see here is that there's, you see guitar 1, guitar 2, and guitar 3, or G1, G2, G3. That is the 3 guitar parts. Guitar 1's for the kid who's never played before. Guitar 2, it's power chords or roots and fifths. Typically, sometimes they'll have full chords, and then guitar 3 is a melody. The next section is for the bass player. Bass is the only instrument in Junior Rockerz that has 1 part. And if you have a kid who can play the bass part really well, then in the manual it talks about how to have the kids start adding fifths into the bass line, but still playing the same rhythm. There's a keyboard 1 and a keyboard 2 melody. Keyboard 1 is for a kid that can read a little bit. Keyboard 2 is for a kid that can't read. In a minute, I'm going to talk about how to teach keyboardists who don't know how to read. And then at the very bottom, you see D1 and D2. That's drum set 1 and drum set 2. Drum set 1 is for a drummer who doesn't know how to drum, and drum set 2 is for a drummer that can play some basic drum beats. Any questions at this point? Okay, so here is, hey, wait a minute.
Hey, Dave, this is Deanna. I have a question.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. It's early here, but I'm here, man.
It's late here, and snowing here.
I live rock and roll hours, so 9:30
Right.
is something. No, here's my question. Does the Junior Rockerz program use a standard guitar, or do they use the modified 3-string?
Everything standard.
Okay,
but oddly enough, in Junior Rockerz, they only play, so the guitar 1 parts for the kids that are beginners, they only actually use 2 strings in it.
Okay.
even though it's on a 6-string. So they feel like, hey, look at me, I'm a hot shot playing a 6-string now. Here, I'm trying to go back here. Hold on one second. I feel like I skipped a slide and it's not letting me. Uh-oh. Hold on, people. Did you see what I just did? Everything probably looks fine on your end. Here we go. Okay, so let me just go back. I think I skipped some. Okay, so we're looking at, this is the verse of a song. And all of the music all the songs are either a verse and a chorus or a verse and a chorus and maybe some type of tag, which this song is. So here's the chorus of the song. Typically, just like in Kidzrock, one section's a little bit easier and one's a little bit harder. So this section of this is the chorus. It's a little bit harder. And then this song has a tag, and that's considerably harder. And so the band director in Jr Rockerz, like this is how their score would look. It would say, here's the verse, here's the chorus, here's the tag. And then it writes out different arrangement examples. So the score does not map out the whole arrangement. It just says, here's your 3 musical sections, band director, put the song together, and here are some suggested arrangements. So typically with a song like this, with a verse, a chorus, and a tag, I would just say, play the song down, 3 times. And on the 3rd pass through it, someone's going to improvise a solo during the verse. That's kind of my default to arrangement. Okay, so now we're going to look into the actual operations manual. Off to the left here, it says, play it, name it, and read it. That's how I teach kids how to play and read. So for example, if you're looking here, this is talking about how to teach the guitar players is guitar 1, guitar 2. I know some of you might not be familiar with guitar tablature, but you see there at the top of guitar 1, there's just those single E notes. Well, below it, those lines are physically represent the guitar strings. There's 6 guitar strings and it says 0. It means go to the bottom string, the string closest to you, and don't play any frets. If it said 1, it would mean play the 1st fret. But the actual note, E, is written above. So if I was teaching a kid who couldn't play guitar, I would say, okay, kid, I'd open their music and I'd point to their guitar and I'd say, pluck that string. The kid plucks it. Okay, so he played it. That note is called E. I just named it. And then I would point to the music and say, here's E on the page. And now the kid's reading it. So I'll have I always teach the band how to play it, and then I name it, and then I point to the music. And some kids aren't reading. All the kids eventually start reading in there. Same with piano. It's the same way. I show them how to play it first. I tell them what the notes are called, and then I point to it on the page. Any questions about that? Because just like with Kidzrock, the objective is we got to get this band up and playing like right away. Like they have to be playing by their first rehearsal. So the reading comes later. So here's another section of the operations manual. Guitar 3, this is for a kid who's, just eyeballing that melody at the top there. This is for a kid who's a little bit more advanced musically. And maybe the kid can't read the treble clef, but they can read the guitar tab. Now, you non-guitar players looking at this, you can see these numbers popping in on that guitar tablature graph. That's showing them where to, what frets to play. Notice lots of open strings still in that melody. I was, I deliberately chose it that way. The keyboards are going to also play that melody, and that's the vocal melody. We'll talk about the singing part. Here's the bass line. It's talking here about how the keyboards work. We're going to get into the keyboards now in a second. Okay, so here's the keyboards. Keyboard 1 is for a child who can read. A kid who can read has to play that melody. Does anyone want to dare sight sing that for us? Who here can sight sing? Raise your hand. Come on, guys. Your parents paid a lot of money for you guys to go to college to study music. We have any sight singers here? Okay. If you feel you can do it, raise your hand. So there's that little melody there. Underneath it, keyboard 2, and maybe some of you haven't seen that notation before, but those flat note heads are indicating rhythm, and it says E minor. Well, little Sally just showed up to Junior Rockerz. She has no idea what an E minor is. So you point up, you guys see there where it says song 1, right to the right of it, you see where it says chords? That's a cheat sheet for them. E minor equals E plus G, and in parentheses it says B. The E and the G creates a dyad, so that's Kidzrock style. And your Junior Rockerz keyboard, maybe it's marked up with notes, and maybe it's not. I always chose not to have the keyboard. I would marked up. I would just go to little Sally and say, here, play these 2 notes. And I'd point to her. And I'd say, hey, you see how that E is sitting right next to those black notes? That's E. And this note's G. It's sitting right next to this black note. Play these 2 notes together. Great. That's an E minor chord. That's how I would teach her. Maybe out of the blue somewhere, I'd say, hey, Sally, what 2 notes are in your E minor chord? Good, E and G. And then maybe later on, in parentheses, when Sally's got those chords moving, I'll add in the 5th. I would add in B. Song 1 only has 3 chords in it. Now, she can't read the rhythm, but if I go to her and say, okay, play E and G and go boom, 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 she's got it. Okay, so I got Sally playing it. I name it later that this is an E minor chord, and then she eventually, through playing it, begins to understand what these rhythms are. Okay, let's look. So here's the drum music. Now, some of you, maybe most of you, don't read drum music, and that's fine. You'll learn quickly. It's each note on the staff. Like this note here looks like an F, where but that's the kick drum. So it teaches you how to read drum music. And looking at this example 1 drum beat, very typical Kidzrock. I'm sorry, Junior Rockerz drum beat. Boom, kada, boom, boom, boom. Those little like grace notes, that means to hit the drum with 2 hands. And the big thing with Junior Rockerz drumming for the beginners is that they're always moving all over the drum set, because kids want to move all over the drum set. And so day 1, you got them moving. Let's move on. Teaching through repetition. I'm just going to read a little bit here. So just like the Kidzrock manual, there's lots of teaching tips, things to say. I'm going to read a little bit here. It says at the top here, a student playing drum set 2 should be able to execute this part with relative ease and minimal instruction. Why? Because they can read if they're playing drum set 2. Transition from drum set. So transition the student from drum set 1 if they're unable to play the beat. So let's say you have your drum set 2 player struggling a little bit, put them on drum set 1 for the day, and you can bring them back to drum set 2. I do a lot of mixing and matching. I'll say, hey kid, for the verse, play drum set 1, but the chorus, play drum set 2, because you seem to have that beat working out. So if you look here at this little guitar riff, it says bringing in the guitars, what is that? Boom, boom, boom. I would teach that to the kids quickly, minimal explanation, and I would get them up and playing it. It says here in 30 to 90 seconds, you want to have that band up and playing that. And I'd say, guys, we're going to play this one measure, this one idea 16 times, or we're going to play it until the big hand that's sitting on 3 is on 5. It's just like, I'm a big fan of repetition, and let the band just vamp on that one measure for a long time. It gets their brains to relax, to kind of go more into a trance, and they're struggling at first, but they eventually get it. The key thing is as you're instructing to go, I got to get this band up and playing ASAP. So I'd have them play this measure, and then I'd add a second measure, and then have them play those 2 measures together, maybe 24 times. Teaching chord changes. So we're just kind of seeing other parts of the manual. These are different teaching strategies for how to teach chord changes. So in Junior Rockerz, you're either teaching a riff, which is a series of notes that repeats, or you're sitting on a chord and then the band moves to another chord. And again, here's teaching strategies. Here's things that you can say. So I'll read this. It says, guitars, this section has 2 chords in it, B and A. Guitar 1, practice playing your 2nd fret on the A string and the open A string. So I'm giving guitar 1, so I'm saying, guys, work on this. Play the 2nd fret and the open string, but I got you turned off just like you would do in Kidzrock. Guitar 2, practice playing power chords on these 2 notes. Keyboards, your B is comprised of a B and a D sharp. A is comprised of A. So when I'm going around, I'm just kind of showing each section, the guitars, the keyboards. These are just work on these individual things. And then we're going to bring in the whole group. Again, the objective is teach quickly. Don't spend a lot of time explaining things and talking. Try to get to the point where you're counting off for the band to play as quickly as possible. Improvisation. This is new. For you rock and rollers out there, you'll know that the minor pentatonic scale, and let's see if I can get Eric to nod his head. The minor pentatonic scale is the ultimate rock and roll improvisation scale. Eric, do we get a nod? We got it from him. It's a 5-note scale. But it says in here, you're going to say to the kids, I only want you to improvise with 3 notes or 5 notes. And here's how you, here I'm going to read this at the very bottom. It says, encourage students to improvise by creating different note combinations from the scale. They should play with long open rhythms in a higher register so that their sound will be more distinguished from the rest of the band. Little teaching tip. Encourage your students to improvise with slow and long phrasing. Slow and long is a more tangible way of saying whole notes and half notes and quarter notes. They don't understand what that means. And then model for your students a simple 4-note improvised solo. The key is, if you can get your guitars and keyboard, is to hop up an octave from the rest of the group and play and make up melodies that are moving slower than the rest of the band. The listener and the audience is going to right away pick up on, oh, this kid's doing something different. This kid's improvising, and it cuts through the music better. So again, much more sophisticated idea. You would never see this in Kidzrock. Okay, so songwriting. So we were talking about these melodies in guitar 3. It's the same melody in keyboard 1. What they do is the band can play it as an instrumental. The song is an instrumental. And if everyone's a beginner in the group, nobody's playing guitar 3 or keyboard 1. So maybe you as the teacher play it. But if the kids are going to sing, then they're going to use that melody and they're going to write lyrics. And here's an example. There's like 3 different songwriting scenarios. This one is where you say to the group, okay, actually, I want some mics turned on. We're gonna write a quick lyric here. Eric, Wendy, turn those mics on. We need some microphones. I'm turning them on whether you like it or not. There we go. I just unmuted Deanna. Linda, I just unmuted you. Okay, I got some unmuted mics here. So I might say to you guys, okay, guys, I want you to pick a category, a color, a place, or an action. Eric, what do you want? A color, a place, or an action?
A place.
A place, okay. Wendy, tell me a place that you know about, that everyone in the world knows about this place.
Disneyland.
Disneyland. Okay, great. Guys, we're going to write a song about Disneyland. I want everyone to write down the word Disneyland on your piece of paper here. And then I'm going to say, I want everyone to write a very short sentence with the word Disneyland in it. Linda, share with us your very short sentence about Disneyland. Pressure, pressure, pressure.
I don't have anything. Can I pass?
I don't know. Should we let her pass? Linda, you've got something. Make it up. Pressure, pressure. Have you ever been to Disneyland?
Oh, of course, yeah.
How about I once went to Disneyland?
Sounds great.
Okay, see what I did there? I wrote that, but Linda now feels like she's a part of it. And quite often as the band director, you're going to do a lot of the writing, but you're going to make the kids feel like you're part of it. Okay, so then everyone turns in their lyrics and oh, look at what Linda wrote. Or no, actually, I wouldn't say Linda's name. I don't want her to, or I don't want anyone to feel bad. I'm like, oh, somebody here wrote, I once went to Disneyland. And now I'm going to plug that into the melody. And I might say, most likely, if let's just say for the sake of the melody that we have to rhyme the word land, I might say something like, here, we'll do this really quick. Who here can tell me what are some words that rhyme with land? It has to be a real word. Can anyone think of a word that rhymes with land?
Band.
Stand.
Stand. Okay. So what do you guys think if we say, I once went to Disneyland, waited in line, I had to stand. What do you guys think? Does that work for you? Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, great. I just made that up. One of you said the word stand. I made up that sentence. Is it a great lyric? No, but it makes sense. And we're on to the next lyric. Okay, so that's one writing song. I'm going to go ahead and mute you guys again. So one songwriting exercise songwriting exercise we did is where I said pick a word and then I build it from there. There's three different main songwriting scenarios. Not every kid is going to enjoy writing the lyrics. So typically a songwriting session will last 10 to 15 minutes. So you got to move quickly with it. And the manual maps that out. Singing. Now the kids sing in Junior Rockerz. They don't in Kidzrock, or they sing in Kidzrock, but they do it separately. So in Junior Rockerz, this talks about how to bring in a singer. Typically, the band director is going to do all the singing initially. So first thing you want to do with the songwriting is write the chorus lyric. Because now you got a hook. You got a lyric for the hook. And then you go in and you play the song. And when the chorus kicks in, the band director initially is singing that. And then it says here it's recommended to make a simple recording on your phone of, maybe you or all the kids singing what they wrote, and then email it to the parents, because you're eventually going to pick out, first of all, if you make a video of the kids singing it and you email it to the parents, guess where that video is going? Social media. They're going to put it out there. Oh, what's this thing Billy's doing? Oh, he's in a rock band now, but Billy's only 7. He doesn't even play an instrument. I know, but he's in a rock band now. And then eventually you're going to bring a singer in, and the singer is most likely not going to be able to play and sing at the same time. So when, little Wendy is going to sing her song, she's going to not play the piano when she sings, but when the band's vamping at the beginning, before the singing, she's playing. And then when it's time for her to sing, she just pulls her hands off and sings. Okay, let's move onward. So let's talk about marketing Junior Rockerz. It's a different beast than Kidzrock. Because Kidzrock, all you got to say is rock band for ages 4 to 7, and people's ears perk up, and you can catch your attention pretty quickly. If you say rock band for ages 7 to 11, well, that sounds kind of normal. That's not as peculiar as 4 to 7. So here's how you market it. You market it to current and past Kidzrock students. That's the first place to start. So even though you've got kids that are in Kidzrock, you want to educate them that the next step is Junior Rockerz. If you don't educate them about it, they're going to drop out. They're not going to realize that you have that option. And I've had people drop out of Kidzrock, and then I'm like, oh, hey, well, he feels like he's too old now for the group, maybe even a 7-year-old. So there's an age overlap there with Kidzrock and Junior Rockerz. You can be 7 in either program. Some kids drop out of Kidzrock because they feel like they're too old. Had I done a better job of educating them about Junior Rockerz, they wouldn't have dropped out. So you want to market to your Kidzrockers by educating them about it. You want to market to your current students in private lessons. I'd recommend that you bundle the rate together. So let's say you charge $100 and say $30 for a month of 30-minute lessons. And maybe you say to them, hey, for $210, you can add on this hour-long rock band. Or direct incoming students directly into Junior Rockerz, which is what I ultimately did. If you were between the ages of 7 and 11, you're calling for piano lessons, guess what? Sally's going into a rock band. Do not run online ads with Junior Rockerz. It'll be a waste of money. Run your online ads for private lessons, run them for Kidzrock, and then when somebody calls with that 9-year-old, then pitch them Junior Rockerz. If you do a good job of pitching it, most of the parents are going to feel like Junior Rockerz is going to be a much better fit for their child.
Hey, David, I have a question.
Yeah.
Did you ever have parents that were like adamant about like more classical piano lessons? And because I find with most people, I can sell them or persuade them into a certain direction, but every now and then there'll be someone that's like, no, this is what I want. Did you run into that?
Yes. Now, there's two ways. I love this story. There was this girl who, the girl was like an American-born girl. The mom was Chinese, like had only lived here for maybe like 9 years, and she wanted classical piano for her daughter. And I really was pushing Junior Rockerz. And I said to the mom, I said, look, why don't we try Junior Rockerz, just one class. And then we'll reconnect. So she tried it out. I didn't charge her. And she's like, my daughter really loved it, but I really want her to do classical. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I think what's important is that your daughter's making a connection and that she's loving it. How do you feel about us continuing with Junior Rockerz and really, build that bond with music and then transition her out into classical music? Well, at the concert, I look over at the mom and she's like holding her camera, make a little video of her daughter. You could tell like she was kind of welling up with emotions. And I'm like, oh, she's not going to classical. And it was the end of it. Mom was like, no, this is for her. I just had to give mom a different way to think about it. And I gave her an option to exit. Now, if mom really pushed back, if mom continued to push back, I would have let her go into the private lessons. My school was not at a point when I sold my business. We were seriously considering saying, you have to be in Junior Rockerz or you just can't be here. Because we believed, so much in the program. At that point, the school wasn't at max capacity. So we needed, the students. So we started saying to people, well, for people your child's age, we recommend our Junior Rockerz program, and here's why. I'd say 80% of those people would take Junior Rockerz, but we were contemplating saying, no, you have to. This is just how we do it here. School of Rock does that. School of Rock says you have to be in a band. Like, this is what we're about. And I, totally got to give them props for being firm about it. But I think initially, to start off soft, kind of maybe presenting it as an option. And then if you really believe in the program and believe that it's best for the child, then start kind of saying, no, this is how we do it here. You start out in Junior Rockerz. Great question, though. I'm glad you asked it. Can you guys see these numbers okay on your screen? This is from my P&L. This is I want to compare.
A little small, Dave.
It's a little small.
Well, I'm also on an iPad, but still, yeah. That's nice.
Okay, good. So let's look at that really quick. So these are my sales numbers from September of 2017. This is before. In January of 2018 is when if somebody called for private guitar lessons, we'd say, well, we recommend that you start in Junior Rockerz. This is when we were giving people an option. So Junior Rockerz was not as big as it became, but it shows here that with Junior Rockerz, people had the option to be in Junior Rockerz or lessons or Junior Rockerz only. Junior Rockerz and lessons, we were charging $175, and for Junior Rockerz only, 135. Much better profit margins if they went into Junior Rockerz. And at that point in time, what is that? 32 people in it? Yeah, 32 kids were in Junior Rockerz. We'd probably had it around for 2 years at that point, making $5,000 a month with it. Kidzrock, you see there's only 34 people, it's really 35 roughly. Oh, look, 2 kids are in Kidzrock in lessons. That's something we always did, is if a kid, we would push it a little bit to do both. Not that we didn't push it that aggressively. We always had 1 or 2 kids in it, but at that point we were only charging 110 for Kidzrock. So we were making, what is it, about $9,000 a month from Kidzrock and Junior Rockerz. That's probably a little over $100,000 a year from the 2 programs. Junior Rockerz was so big because all of our Kidzrockers were funneling into it, and we were getting a lot of kids coming in, new students coming into Junior Rockerz. So Junior Rockerz is much more profitable than Kidzrock, just because you're going to charge more for it. Okay. Oh, hold on here. Okay, so here's so let's talk about Junior Rockerz pricing. It's $200 a month for Junior Rockerz. There's a one-time. It's a $300 buy-in. If you opt in and launch before or by January 15th, we'll do a 60-minute free coaching call. Well, I'm going to ask you, what are your 3 top stressors or challenges in your business? And we're going to come up with, at least 3 actionable steps that you can take in that call to help your business. So any questions about the program?
Yes.
Who is that, Eric?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm excited. I think this is all going to be really great. So it's what is the makeup of the band? Is it similar to Kidzrock? Is bass introduced?
Yes. So bass is the only instrument that doesn't have. Well, here, I'm going to answer your first question. You can easily go up to 6 kids in Junior Rockerz. We always had 2 drummers in Junior Rockerz. So we had 2 rooms that were big enough to have 2 drum sets. We would often have 2 keyboardists in a group, and we could go up to 3 guitar players. I would never have a group with 3 guitars, 2 keyboards, and 2 drummers and a bass player. That's a lot of people, but 6 was kind of the max. Now, there were times where we had a band max out at 6, and we had a 7th kid that wanted to be in it, and we'd go to the band director and say, look, what's the behavior like in this group? Could they handle a 7th kid? And if the behavior was good, and the teacher was okay with it, then we'd put a 7th kid in there. So to go back to your bass question, bass parts are identical to what guitar 1 is playing. It's all single notes on the E and the A string. But in the manual, it talks about, okay, like let's say the bass line is boom, boom, boom. Okay, the kid's nailing it. Then you could go and add a 5th to it. It's not written in. The teacher would add in boom, boom. I would never add a 3rd or passing tones. The most I would do is 5th. So the teacher, will take some, artistic liberties there. Okay.
And then another question is, what is included in the initial buy-in?
So the $300 buy-in covers the books, and it's going to cover the shipping for it, as well as shipping. It's like same with Kidzrock. The Kidzrock buy-in, it covers the books and the guitars, and then it covers your shipping for then, and then all your shipping for the future.
Okay. And so are there 2 3/4 size guitars?
No, it's all regular size
Oh, really?
Right,
Full
right.
size.
So you don't buy any. So no instruments come with the program.
Okay, so we need to provide those guitars for the students.
So,
Yeah, I mean, it's
like,
okay. I have like $100 guitars laying around the studio for that reason.
right, right. So we used to always have two cheap guitars laying around because kids show up and they don't bring it. Then we got to a point where we had four laying around because then kids would come in and, like with Jr Rockerz, the kids don't have to practice. The big thing is you say to them, look, if you're not practicing, if you don't own a guitar, that's fine. Just show up each week. But just know you're going to be playing guitar one all the time. And a kid might be completely okay with that. Oh, you don't own a drum set? Not a problem. Just know your son's always going to be playing drum set one. But then the kid starts getting frustrated. And then, okay, Mom, I want to be able to play drum set too. Mom, then you're going to need to get drum lessons now and buy a drum set. So you're lowering that barrier to entry. If someone's going to take drum lessons at your studio, they need to buy a drum set and they need to commit to practicing. If they're going to take piano lessons, they need to buy or rent a piano and commit to practicing on some level. Jr Rockerz, I would say to teachers, don't tell the kids to practice. Tell them that next week in band, the band's going to work on the chorus. We're working on the chorus next week, guys. And the more motivated kids are going to practice, and they're going to come in playing their more advanced part. And then the kid who didn't practice or doesn't own an instrument, they're just going to be playing the basic part. And that's fine. There was a question that there was something I was going to say about that. Oh, that so typically here's what we would do is we would say, look, I know you want guitar lessons, Mom. I want your child to form a strong connection with music. They're so much more likely to do that in Jr Rockerz. The fact that your kid's in a group and they're performing and they're in a concert, they're more likely to create that bond. I'll check back in with you in 3 months, see how it's going, and then maybe then we can add on lessons. So, and I would schedule it on my calendar. I wanted those kids in the band first. For one, I'm confident that if the kid's in the band, they're going to fall in love with playing an instrument. And I'm not confident that they're going to feel that way about the lesson. My concern was they would go, band is awesome, lesson is boring. It's like, no, I want the kid to get frustrated in band and get frustrated that they're never playing the guitar 2 and guitar 3 part. Well, then you got to go into lessons. And then that kid's going to have a lot more motivation. And from a business perspective, you're making more money when they're just in band. But as long as it's a win for the kid, it's all that matters. If it can be a win for the kid, a win for the mom, and a win for the business, then it's a win for everybody.
And do they stay on one instrument all the time?
Yes.
Okay. I already know the problem I'm going to face. Everyone's going to want to be a drummer.
So that's where you want to then, consider two drums, or you just say to the mom, there's no drum openings. Well, Mom hasn't bought a drum set. Mom hasn't bought anything. What about keyboards, Mom? Okay, we'll do keyboards. Keyboards it is.
Keys are a pretty easy sell, I feel like, because so many parents believe that is a great foundation for any instrument.
And I would always sell it to parents is, look, the piano is like an encyclopedia. Everything you need to know about music's right there. And I would say this, I'd say, well, look, I know your kid can't play drums because there's no opening, but the piano is in the percussion family. Why? Because there's a lot of, two-handed rhythms going on. So your kid's going to be learning about rhythm, which they need to learn to play the drums. And I've seen this firsthand. Piano players make for great drummers, and drummers make for great piano players. Guitar players, it's a different story. So it was pretty easy to persuade, the parent, hey, I know your kid really wants guitar. Why don't you try bass? You don't have to buy anything. So, and more importantly, the mom's like, I just want my kid to be in a band, and I can't wait to see my kid on stage playing in a band. We'll do whatever instrument you got. Here's a question that comes up a lot, is that then the band wants to start playing real songs. So my rule, I'd always say to my staff is, look, you think they can handle a real song, go for it, but they have to in concert, or they have to be able to play 2 Junior Rockerz songs first before you bring in a cover. And if you're going to bring in a cover, they can play it in concert, but you better make sure that cover sounds as good in their execution as the Junior Rockerz songs. Typically what would happen is a band would play a cover and it would be a musical train wreck, but the Junior Rockerz song would sound pretty solid. And also, like with Kidzrock, in concert, we would, I would give, where is it? I'd give the band, the helpers, I'd give them the score, of a song and say, hey, teachers, play along with the band. So I would have teachers that never rehearse with the group play along in concert with them. So just like Kidzrock, they wind up sounding better. Any other questions? Wendy.
I've got a little list here. Okay, so when somebody signs up for Junior Rockerz, they're signing up then for a specific instrument in Junior Rockerz.
Correct.
Can they change when there is an opening for something else? Is that
yeah?
Find that people do that?
Yeah. What you want to avoid is the Kidzrock rotation. In Kidzrock, you're promising the parents, yeah, your kid's going to play everything, and they love that. Junior Rockerz is, so yeah, I will have a kid join the group. Mom's like, my kid's playing keyboards, but he really wants to play guitar. Okay, fine. There's an opening. You're going to switch to guitar. Okay. And then it's that simple of a change.
Okay. So as long as there's openings, they can switch, but not within like learning one song keys and another song guitar. You just keep it the same.
Right. Now, and you really have to, if you've got, Wendy, I think you're a solo teacher, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you have multiple teachers, you got to really get on them about it, because one teacher, they go, oh yeah, sure, we'll switch instruments. That sounds fun. And then the other kids are going, hey, well, wait a minute, we didn't get to do that.
Right.
So having that consistency across the board is really important.
And then you said full-size instruments, so including drum kit. Drum kits are full-size now?
And you can, if you don't have a full-size set, you can keep them on Kidzrock drum set. They'll never know the difference.
Okay.
They'll know the difference if sitting in the corner is a big kid drum set and they're not on it.
Right. All right. And then it's the same idea about 8 rehearsals and then a concert?
Good question. No, it takes them longer
to
get ready. So I would put them in sync with your regular recital or concert schedule. And most schools are doing recitals maybe 2 or 3 a year.
Right.
And Junior Rockerz, it takes them a lot longer to get performance ready. Now, if you're on a time crunch and you want to get them ready for a concert sooner, then you're going to have to maybe go, okay, well, we're not going to do any lyric writing, and these songs that have 3 parts, I'm going to cut out the bridge and I'm going to make it just a 2-section song. So you can get, creative that way with it.
So typically, how many rehearsals should there be before?
It takes them like 3 to 4 months before they're ready. It's a lot of work. And typically what I do is to break the monotony is in concert, I'll have them play 2 songs, maybe 3 if they're there. But then let's say the group is working on 2 songs and I know they're going to play 2 songs in concert. I'll introduce a 3rd song for them to learn anyway, but I won't tell them that they're not playing it in concert. Or I won't tell them that one of the songs is going to get cut. Then I'll kind of go, okay, they got 3 songs. This one's still kind of shaky. Guys, we're going to play these 2 songs.
Okay. All right. Have you ever had, so you have private students saying, taking guitar lessons and then introducing Junior Rockers. And so they say, yeah, we want to try Junior Rockers. And then they drop the private lessons.
Yeah, that happens.
All right.
That happens. And you get, it's, if you, for someone like you, where you're a solo teacher, that could be a real perk for you, in that now if you can, if some of your students move into Junior Rockers and they drop their lesson, now you're maximizing your time better. Now you're making more money in less time. If you have teachers working for you, there will be a cultural shift where eventually the teachers prefer only getting students that have some Junior Rockers experience, because they know that they're dealing with a higher caliber musician. The kid's confident, the kid can play a little bit, they can read a little bit. They're not dealing with this fresh slate, you know, a kid that can't play at all.
All right. Good. Good. That's all my questions. Thanks.
Great, yeah, great questions. Anyone else? Any questions here? I'm going to look and see who's, I'm going to check the chat, see if we've got, no, we still got 7 people on the call. Well, I'll give you guys another minute to chime in with a question. Let me see, anything else I can, I think the big challenge will be introducing Junior Rockers into your studio, and how do you market to those kids in lessons? You know, you could do something like, we're going to have this one-time introductory rate, where if you're in lessons, you're paying $120 a month for lessons. For only $70 more, you can join Junior Rockers. But on February 1st, it's going up to $210. Because really, you're going to just want to get, like, if you can just get one group going. Once you get that one group, now you can really do some nice internal marketing. And you could even do, we did free trial classes with Junior Rockers to build it up. And then after a few months of it, we stopped doing trial classes with it, and just, you know, you're going into Junior Rockers. But it's really about what you do on the phone and what you do in your email. And just like with Kidzrock, there's a, you know, email swipe file. Actually, if you're in the Facebook, the DSME Facebook group, which I know you're all in, I just posted an updated email swipe file for Junior Rockers. And you can just grab those emails.
Another question.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, you just said something. Oh, kids can join into Junior Rockers at any time, like Kidzrock, right?
Great question. I'm so glad. Wendy, you're on fire today. You're getting all the good questions. So yes, with Junior Rockers though, what we would do is we would say to the parent, look, we're going to give you a free lesson. We want your kid, you know, to sometimes even 2 free lessons, and to get that kid up to speed to join the group, usually never more than 2, or maybe an hour lesson. We'd find out what songs they're playing in the band. So let's say they're playing song 8 and song 12. The kid's going to play keyboards. We know they're going to do keyboard 1, or I'm sorry, keyboard 2. And then we'd spend either 2 30-minute lessons or 1 hour lesson, and get that kid just caught up enough, you know, speed, and then throw them into their first rehearsal. And I think we would cut off enrollment a month before the concert, which is really not, you know, if you're doing like a real rock band, like my school, we also had bands for, you know, teens and preteens. After about like 5 or 6 weeks into the season, it's pretty hard to like bring in a kid into the band. It's just like, you know, the music's so much more sophisticated than Junior Rockers. And so it killing, like we're like, you know, turning students, like, wait until June. I know it's only March now, but wait until June, then you can join a band. So yeah, this allows you to keep that enrollment open. And we would often start a wait list for Junior Rockers. Something else that we would do is throughout the course of the season, like in November and in March, we would say, okay, let's now look at all of our students that are in lessons only. They're getting a phone call. Hey, we're starting a new Junior Rockerz group on Wednesday at 4:30. We really think, we'd love to have your daughter in it, give her the whole sales pitch. And then we would start we would start new groups later in the season as well. Whereas Kidzrock, I would never do that, because Kidzrock, they're performing every 8 to 10 weeks. So you can start building new groups throughout the year.
Another question with
Yeah.
being assigned certain instruments. So when they register, should we be finding out what instrument they are interested in? 'Cause
Yeah.
I think Eric was pointing out that he's going to have a whole bunch of drummers, so we should kind of know that ahead of time before they show up, right?
Oh yeah. No, totally. So the mom calls up, maybe, she registered online for guitar lessons. And then you tell mom, hey, look, Junior Rockerz, here's why. I really recommend this. Mom goes, great. And then the kid's getting placed in guitar. Or mom calls and says, I want my kid to do drum lessons. Well, we don't have any drum openings right now in Junior Rockerz, but we do have piano. The kid doesn't, unless mom said, we're signing you up for drum lessons, then she's going to have to deal with that. But the teacher, teachers got on, their attendance, who the kids are and what instruments they're on.
Okay.
So,
I think for me in this first starting up here, I think what I'm going to have is calls saying, hey, yeah, we want our kids in these rock bands. And so then I'm wondering, should I at that time say, okay, which instrument do they want?
right. So typically what I found is nobody ever called up wanting to get placed in Junior Rockerz unless they had a friend in it. They didn't know what it was. It was typically they're calling for private lessons. And then I would, tell them about it. Because most people, and this is a challenge you have with Kidzrock, you could say on your Kidzrock landing page, beginners, no experience necessary. Parents still assume my 5-year-old's never played a lick of music in their life. They can't do Kidzrock. Can't do it. No, that's like, they don't get it. It's so they even might look at Junior Rockerz and you might say beginners, no experience. No, my kid maybe has some social anxiety. I want them to be in private lessons first. And then, at that point I would then, try to persuade them into going to Junior Rockerz. It was rare. If somebody called up and said, oh, we want to be in Junior Rockerz, I could pretty much assume they know somebody who's in Junior Rockerz. I'm like, oh, and then typically they want to be in that band with their friend. So does that answer the question?
Yes. Yeah. That's good. Thanks.
And that's like a legitimate thing. Like if a parent calls and says, wow, my kid really has a lot of social anxiety and the group thing would just be overwhelming for them. Okay, well, if you feel that it's best for your child then to do private, then let's explore that. I mean, there are some kids that just, the whole idea of being in a group is just, crippling for them. And then a private lesson really can work better. But to lead with this is from our experience, we have found that more kids connect with music, love the idea of playing music, and will continue to pursue playing music by starting out in Junior Rockerz, because that's what parents want. They just want their kids to connect to it. So, all right. Any more questions, people? Yeah, keep them coming.
Sorry. So price point. Is it a comparable to a half-hour lesson, private lesson? Is that what the price is?
I would recommend charging. So do you offer hour-long lessons at your studio?
We do 45-minute private lessons.
And what do you charge for that?
$168 a month.
Yeah, so I would charge a little more than that because it's an hour long. I would look at maybe like 180 or 190.
Okay.
For Junior Rockerz.
But the same, so that basically be the same as what a private lesson would cost.
Right.
But okay.
Right. And I've had people say, oh yeah, but it's not one-on-one. I'm like, that's not, you're giving them the whole social and performance component is huge for parents. Parents, like, I don't know, like being in the room one-on-one with some like 40-year-old teacher is not nearly as cool as being in a room with 4 of your peers getting ready for a rock concert. There's a lot of value in that. And that's where you can get into the whole idea. Look, the kids, they're learning about teamwork and learning about leadership. You know, these are real life skills that your child's going to be learning, because the group has to negotiate and figure out what is best for the group. And your child has to learn about, you know, how do you support other kids? How do you respond to a child who maybe musically isn't as developed as you? It's in your best interest as a child to try to empower that other kid. So the parents eat that stuff up.
Good.
All right, guys. Well, I will post this up in Facebook, and just shoot me an email if you've got over 10 kids in Kidzrock, and you got at least one concert behind you, or that you're going to have a concert behind you before the year's up. That would be a good time to launch with Jr Rockerz. If you're just getting Kidzrock up on its feet, I would hold off with Jr Rockerz. Wait until you got at least a concert and 10 kids. And hopefully the money that you're making from Kidzrock, you can reinvest it into Jr Rockerz. And like you saw from the profits, Jr Rockerz can just really turn into a much bigger moneymaker, and actually was my most compared to all my programs in my studio, most of my profits came from Jr Rockerz. All right, guys. You guys, thanks for being on the call today. Have a great day. Bye.